we are so glad to be here together to share information about living your best life with home dialysis. And that includes both PD and home hemodialysis. And our sponsor for this webinar and all of our guests, except Jen and me, are from Fresenius Kidney Care. So I'm Dory Chattel. I'm the Executive Director of the Nonprofit Medical Education Institute, or MEI. Jen Ravert is our MEI Program Director, and she and I are going to be your co-hosts tonight. And our special guests are Kelly Aubrey and Barb Rups and Latrice Jones. And we will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A for your questions. And we're recording the session, as you just heard, so that folks who weren't able to be here tonight still will have a chance to listen to all of your wisdom and learn from you. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to call on folks to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we will start our conversation. So really pop in with questions anytime. We don't have any slides. This is very informal. We just like to have fun talking with our guests. So I'm going to start with Kelly because she is on my right on the Zoom lineup. And Kelly, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and what you like most about it.
I am one of the nurses for a home program in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I work remotely from Montana. I help case manage our HHD patients. So I review labs, I do virtual clinic visits with them, just work with them on any problems that might arise with their treatments. It's basically it. What I love most about my job, the thing that I love most about home therapies in general, which is why I've been doing it since 2008, I think it was 2008. I like to help patients to be able to enjoy the things that they enjoyed prior to having been on dialysis, to be a part of their life and help them to not just dialyze to live, but to actually live and have quality of life. And that's what this picture behind me is about. It's a couple of little boys fishing, and that was a picture that I chose that defined why I do what I do.
That's wonderful. And you're the perfect guest for this session. So I am very glad that they found you. I'm going to have Jen go next because she's on my other side on the Zoom lineup.
Hi, everyone.
I don't get
Jen.
to pick the Zoom lineup. It just happens.
I'm the program director at MEI now. Before that, I was a home therapies nurse for about 10 years in upstate New York. I did home hemo. I did a lot of PD too. I had a big program. It was really nice. And now I advocate and write, and it's wonderful. So I miss patients though. And I get to interact with a lot of them online and through things like this, which it's good. Really good.
Excellent. Barb, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, my name is Barb and I live in the greater Tulsa, Oklahoma area. I work from home. I have my own boutique marketing company.
What's it called?
True North Strategic.
Nice. Okay.
Nice.
And a little nod to Canada there, being the True North, strong and free.
Right.
So, I'm a naturalized citizen. I was born and raised in Canada, moved to the United States in the early 90s actually, and got my citizenship around 2016. And I've been here. So that takes up, work takes up a good chunk of my time. And then the rest of the time I usually spend working with and training with and having fun with my dog Pixel. She's rescued and we have a lot of fun.
Is she going to make an appearance? Because we were very pleased to see her earlier this afternoon when we did our practice.
Might wander back in here.
Pixel is very cute.
She's a
Also,
sweetheart.
I love that name.
Little nod to my graphic design.
And you do scent work with her, you said.
We do. Yep. She's trained on odor, which, we don't do like search and rescue, which that's what most people think of. That's a little bit more advanced. I know some people who do that, but she's trained on specific odors that the AKC, the American Kennel Club, uses in this. It's like agility. It's a whole track of things, and you can get different levels and stuff like that. We don't compete. We just do it for fun and training. And yeah, so there's 3 odors that she knows, which is birch. Now they just escape my head. Birch, anise, and clove.
Wow.
So she can find them. They kind of hide them, and then she'll sniff around and find them, and then she'll look at me to alert me that she's found it, and then of course she gets rewarded for that. So she, is wanting her paycheck for the work she did.
I'm gonna guess that she could smell peanut butter also.
Oh yeah, and she
just
and chicken.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
chicken. Yes.
yeah, anything
All right.
yummy. But yeah.
Latrice, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, my name is Latrice Jones, and I currently live in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We got a whole
And
Tulsa thing going here.
huh?
I said we got a whole Tulsa thing going here.
Yes, I am originally from the East Southern states, so I am a true Southern belle that's just been transported here for 11 years. I have been a nurse for 17. Have a bachelor's degree in nursing. I've been on home hemo almost 10 years. I did peritoneal for 5, and since 2018 I've been on hemo. And yeah, is that enough information?
That is enough to get us started. And
Yes,
welcome back.
I don't work at all. I'm a stay-at-home wife, which is a lot of work, by the way.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
you were just cooking dinner.
not every day, but sometimes.
All righty. Well, what I'd like to do now is go back to Barb and just ask you to kind of explain your journey. How did you went to peritoneal dialysis first, and that's the option that you're still using. So, you had choices. How did you find out about your kidney disease? How did you happen to make that choice? And how's it working for you?
Sure. Yeah. So it's been quite a journey to get here. It kind of started back in 2002. I started having really strange symptoms in my body it took about 6 months to diagnose, and started out with the very first thing was I couldn't breathe through my nose. And so they kept scanning me for sinus infections and things like that, and nothing ever showed up there. And they tested all kinds of lab work and stuff like that, and everything would always come back normal. And it just kept getting worse until probably about May. Every time I stood up and had my hands straight down, the tips of my fingers turned blue. And
those are some odd symptoms.
Yeah, it was really odd.
And what we typically hear.
No. And then what happened was all of my joints started to really hurt. So my knees, my elbows, my wrists, I had a hard time even just turning over in bed. I was just in so much pain, and I'd go in to see my doctor. At the time I had just moved to Washington State, and I found a good doctor. And the only reason why I found a good doctor was because the ad in the Yellow Pages, which is what we had in 2002, said that it was in front of Costco, and I knew where Costco was. So that's how I found that doctor. And he turned out to be, a godsend. He was really good, and he was really helping me, try to figure out what was going on. And so we were running a battery of tests, and nothing came back weird. And one day I was in so much pain, I went in there after hours on the weekend and saw the on-call doctor and said, I don't know what's going on. I for sure am not an expert in biology. I mean, I took the chemistry physics route in school, so I don't know anything, but I do know that what's happening in my nose and my hands and my joints is connected. And I don't, that's all I can tell you. And he was like, oh, you think so? Okay, whatever. And so then I went back to see my regular doctor, and I told him, and I said, I don't think he believed me. He goes, well, he believed you. He's in the notes. So we kept running tests, and then and nothing was showing up. Even my kidney function looked good. Everything looked great. And then one day, I called them because there's your cat. One day in the
She
middle
like
of the night,
zooms and I forgot to shut the door. And I'm the only one home. So here's your tail.
my finger turned black from the second knuckle up. My finger turned black.
That's terrifying.
And it was extremely painful. And if you've ever had frostbite, it's like that. It's like you're like nothing is going through the your veins or whatever. So I go into the doctor.
Yes, vasculitis.
Yeah, so that's what they thought at first, that it was vasculitis. And so then I go to the doctor and I show him my finger, and he's like, when did that happen? I said, well, last night. I don't sit on these things. And then I had an appointment at that time to see a rheumatologist, but it was a specialist and it was going to take weeks to get in. And he said, no, you need to go there right now. And they had to give me directions to his office. And so I go down there. I mean, they tried all kinds of things. I had a transesophageal echocardiogram. They thought something in my heart was happening, or, they didn't know what was going on. So I go see the rheumatologist, and he looks me over and he goes, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I think it's Wagner's granulomatosis.
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay. So a rare disease.
Yeah, a rare autoimmune disease. And he said, I think it's affecting your kidneys. And
even though your labs were still normal,
they were still good. And he said, the therapy, I think it's changed a little bit since then. Back then it was, pretty high dosages of cytoxin and prednisone.
Right.
So he said the therapy is pretty rough.
It is.
So we want to make sure that that's what that is. And so they, set me up with a biopsy, a kidney biopsy. So did that, confirmed that that's what it was. And so then I started that therapy, and generally the treatment takes about 6 months or so of the cytoxin with the high doses of prednisone to get they measure it with an ANCA panel, and to get that back down to where it should be. Then immune suppression for a year. Wow. And then if it's still quiet, then you can get off of the medication. So we went through the first round, got it down, immune suppression for a year, tested my ANCA panel, and it flared. Start over. Did that a whole thing again. Got to the end of the year of immune suppression, and it flared again. So it took 6 years for it to get quiet.
Wow.
And then I was good for 10 years. And then in 2017, I started having some symptoms again. And I went in to see my doctor, and they were, started looking at stuff, and they're like, yeah, you have an awful lot of protein in your urine. And so then we're still doing some tests, and then I don't remember exactly what my symptoms were, but one day, and I didn't have a home blood pressure cuff or anything. And so one day I just kind of felt weird, and they said, you probably need to take your blood pressure. And so I went to Walmart, bought a blood pressure cuff, put it on, and it was like, I don't know, it was close to like 200 over 160.
You probably thought you weren't doing it right.
I was like, this thing doesn't work.
Right.
It's broken.
Yeah, there's no way that could be right.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know about this, whatever. Because I felt fine. I mean, I felt completely fine.
You don't always feel high blood pressure though.
Right. And so then, you know, I did it a couple times and it would squeeze my arm so bad that I would get like purple spots on my hand.
Wow.
And it hurt too, right? So then I'm like, I just don't love going to the doctor, which I've got over because, you know, we have to do
As you had to, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I decided I'm going to just run into the clinic where my primary care doctor was. And so I go down there and it's like the end of the day, like it's close to 5 o'clock. I go in there and the nurse takes my blood pressure and just her eyes get real big. And then she's like, just sit tight here for a minute. And then she has the doctor come in and he does it. And he said, you need to go directly to the hospital. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I feel fine. No, you need to go. It's so high. You need to go directly to the hospital.
Steam is about to come out of your ears.
Right?
I worked my way through college as a nursing assistant. And I remember when I would take the blood pressure of people who were that high, I would be afraid they would pop.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
It sounds, yeah.
Just to take it.
Yeah. So I go down. And the other thing was I had a spot in my eye and like a red spot in my eye. And I was like, that's what caused me to go. That's what it was. That's what caused me to go and take my blood pressure.
Yeah. Like what?
So I go into the ER and they, thankfully it wasn't busy and they take me back right away and they take my blood pressure and they're like, how did you get here? And I said, I drove my car. It's in the structure. And they said, you should not have been driving. You could have stroked out on the way here. And so that started the second half of my journey. So I was in the hospital for a few days and again, they did another biopsy, confirmed it. Wagner's had come back with a vengeance. But thankfully the treatment nowadays is a lot easier than it was in 2002. My treatment was infusions of Rituxan. I think I've had a total of 10, a few at the beginning and I'd have to have them every 6 months.
That's a little more detail than we probably need for this.
Oh,
so
okay.
Let's move on to, okay, at some point in this, your kidneys.
Right.
So you had to make a choice. How did you make that choice?
I actually wasn't really given a choice.
Really?
I was just told
that.
I still have some kidney function.
Right.
So it took another couple of years before I had to start dialysis. And my blood work came back that I had to start dialysis right at the beginning of 2020.
Okay. Oh, during
right
COVID.
at the beginning, yeah. So it took a little while to get my catheter surgery and stuff, just because everything shut down.
Right.
It gave me enough time to kind of
wrap my mind around
what was going on and know that there was some adjustments coming and changes coming into my schedule and stuff like that. And so then I started dialysis in June of 2020.
So they just sent you to PD. They said you're going to be doing PD.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Because that typically happens with in-center hemo. Oh, you're going to be going to in-center hemo. It's interesting to hear that happens with PD. So how did that change your life at the time? And then we'll go to Latrice and have her tell our story, and then we'll go back and forth. Have her tell.
Yeah. So, the biggest thing initially, I only had to do 2 manual exchanges a day.
Sure, that makes sense.
So, it was just something I had to schedule and just work around and I don't know. I already was working from home, so I had the ability to do that. And
you were doing that before COVID.
Right.
Right. So that wasn't a huge change for you.
No.
Yeah.
So, so that made that easier, that I could just, jump into that right away. And then, a couple months ago, I've had to go to 3 exchanges a day. So I've found that made an even bigger impact on my schedule, just trying to fit it all
Of
in
course. Yep.
and do everything. But
Yeah.
you just got to do what you got to do. So
All right. Latrice, can we have you turn your camera and there you are. Tell us about your journey. Tell us how you kind of got started and how you ended up, you started out with PD and then you ended up on home hemo. So
Yes. Okay. In 2008, I was diagnosed with FSGS. Can you hear me?
yes.
So no rhyme or reason. My kidneys just were declining. In 2008.
How did you know? What did you get?
I was gaining weight even though I was working out, and and just like randomly, and I was just feeling different and odd, and I had gained like 50 pounds.
Whoa,
And
yeah, that would get your attention.
and I was like, but I work out every day, and I
Right.
was still wearing the same clothes, size clothes, that kind of thing. And then I would work out and lose 9 inches, but then I still weighed the same.
Right.
So, so if there was a little decline, I moved here 2011, still overweight. You ran out a lot of tests. I moved here 2011. It went from 1.8 to like 3, my creatinine, the numbers. And then I started bleeding, menstrually bleeding. They couldn't stop it, so I was anemic a lot. And so in 2013, like the summer, I was at the hospital receiving blood products, 2 packs of red blood cells. Told them that I was a kidney patient, not to run it too fast. They did it anyway. And by the time the morning came, they blew my kidneys, and I was given the like 50 doctors was in there going, oh my God, we got to do something. So that was 2013, like the early summer, maybe middle, maybe towards the end. So I said, Fresenius, it was Xanthus then. I remember her name, but I won't say her name, came and talked to me. And she just told me about different things. And I said, I have choices. What are they? And then I said, I'm going home. And the doctor was like, no, you need dialysis today. I was like, no, I'll wait. And so I waited a few more, like a week or two, to decide. And he was like, oh my God, what are you doing, lady? I'm like, well, I just have to decide. So then I decided to do peritoneal because I was working full time. And so I didn't want to really disrupt my life, and I never wanted to go to a clinic. I hated the sight of the clinic.
How did you fit the peritoneal around your full-time work?
So I was off for a month, obviously for surgery. And I exchanged my office because at that time I wasn't working the floor.
Right.
I was an educator, a nurse educator.
Nice.
And quality control. So I had my own little office. I only shared it. And so I was working at the jail at the time. And so I would make exchanges because I'm allergic to extranil. So I couldn't keep it in all night.
Right.
All during the day. So I had to make it one exchange. And then I would just exchange, and I worked for a medical facility and just threw it in the behind waste after I emptied it. So that's how I did it. And then at home at night, I was on the cycler. So at first we did the bags, and then I went to the cycler. Mm-hmm. And then in 2018, it began not to work, probably because I was working a whole lot and probably doing way too much. Trying to be superwoman, A year after that, I got married. Maybe 2 years after that, I got married and blah, blah, blah. So it was just a lot of stuff that I was doing. And peritoneal started to not work. I lost my ability to walk. They didn't think I was going to make it or how I was alive. So that was kind of scary. And
That
so
sounds
we
like it
went
was
in.
very scary.
It was very scary. My husband had to call ER. They had to, the fire department had to come because I couldn't longer move. And then they decided that, PD must not be working. My phosphorus was high. A lot of different things would, off whack. So they put a PD catheter, not a PD, is that what that is? In your neck? Hemo catheter in my neck.
Yeah.
And we started doing dialysis, and then slowly, it took a long haul back to walking and different things like that. And but I went back to walking on the walker, went back to work on hemo.
Wow, good for you. Okay.
For a good bit. And then I was at a different place because, this is a few years later. I was, working in my own office, blah, blah, blah. But, and then we got pregnant in 2019. And so they made me go home and quit working. And then a few months later after that, we lost the baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I've been home since then. And so I do hemo just around my husband's schedule when he goes to work.
So he goes to work and you do home hemo. So you're doing it solo.
I do it kind of sort of solo. So right now we've had a lot of different things changing over the course. So right now my normal schedule is to do it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. In the mornings, we get up about 5 o'clock, 5:30. He puts me on and he goes to work. He works like 5 minutes down the street.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, and then he calls me, make sure I'm good and blah, blah, blah. And so then I'm off. And so we have our evenings and then most of our weekends together without dialysis. Currently, my arm is needs a little surgery, needs opening up. So we're doing it during the day. I'm doing now in a few minutes. I need to get on. So that's where we are. So I still travel.
Yep.
I go wherever I want to go. I still pretty much do what I want to do. Except work, but I don't really have to. So let's just keep it moving.
I don't know, that case management on the phone sounds like it might be a good fit for you if you ever feel like you want to work again, because there are not enough nurses.
I'm reinventing myself so that I can work again. So
yeah.
I just finished my bachelor's and working on my master's degree.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a really good reason to put work off for a while. It's challenging to do both, as Jen will find out, because that's her plan. All right.
So that's my life. All
right. Well, let me go back to Barb and ask you, and I'm not sure that you have an answer for this because you went right to PD and you weren't given a choice, but was there anything that you were concerned about when you first started that turned out to not really be a big deal once you got going?
I don't really think so. I mean, the only thing, as I was thinking about it this afternoon was, I didn't really even know that there was any kind of option to do dialysis at home. So and I'm an introvert, so I was not wanting to spend days in center.
With a lot of other people.
With a lot of other people, especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that angle, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So I wasn't, I think because I had a weird autoimmune issue, I don't go searching the internet on stuff because you do not find good things and
too scary.
And it may or may not happen. So there is no use worrying about something and getting all freaked out about something that may never even happen. So I kind of have really tried to stay away from that because it can get really scary out there, even with accurate information, let alone inaccurate information.
That sounds like a really good coping strategy.
Yeah. So I just, I just kind of take it as it comes. I'm waiting for transplant. I'm qualified and we're just trying to find a match. So, you know, so I hope, you know, that things are going to be different. But other than that, I just try to, you know, stay in the day to day and not get too far out ahead and, you know, freaked out about anything that may or may not happen.
Good plan. Latrice, you mentioned that you ended up being allergic to extraneal, which I'm going to guess is not necessarily something that you worried about ahead of time, because who thinks about that? Were there any things that you did worry about that turned out to really be a problem or not be a problem?
I was really worried about like infection. I was a little germaphobe.
Good
And
point.
so when I first started, especially peritoneal, I mean, either way, just, you know, getting infections. I worked at the jail.
Oh, right.
So it's a really dirty place. And even though, so, you know, infections was a thing for me. I also went to do home health. And so I became very germophobic in these houses in Oklahoma.
Legit, yeah.
We never had. So eventually I stopped doing that. And to this day, I still never want to do that again, even though I loved it. I did hospice and home health. But, you know, getting infections. So I've never been in a hospital for an infection at all. So those kind of things.
So
I guess knock on wood.
that paying attention.
I knocked on all of the wood, Latrice.
Right. that paying attention to the germs and taking precautions really makes a difference.
It does. So that was a thing for me. And then just losing my life, I guess, losing my independence. I'm a very, you know, action-oriented kind of person. So I did lose some of my independence a little bit, not as much as I thought. And I'm pretty young, so to you know, have, you know, losing the ability to walk and, you know, and having arthritis now, you know, those kind of things makes it kind of, you know, just kind of slows me down. But in my mind, I'm not that slow. So adjusting to that.
When you have a health setback, it can be really hard to realize that you can get past it and you can get better again, because you just kind of think, oh, here we go down the slide. This is it. It's getting worse and worse. And that's not necessarily the case. And you really fought your way back. And Barb, you really did too. I mean, you couldn't turn over in bed without pain. And I saw you moving those fingers. They were moving.
Yeah, now they were. Yeah.
So I think it's important for people to know that wherever they are now with their health isn't necessarily where they're always going to be, and that things don't always just have to get worse. They can get better too. All right, so I want to make sure people hear that. So what sorts of things, Barb, does PD let you do that make your life better?
Well, I guess obviously the main one is that I get to live. So that's always good.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Always a good one. Probably the best one.
Yeah, probably so.
And with your dog.
Yeah, and I still get to enjoy things and do things. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I tell people I live my life in 3-hour increments because that's my dwell time. And, you know, and sometimes you can stretch that out a little bit, but, you know, it's, I don't know, to me, it just feels more like an inconvenience. It's not, I was going to say life altering, but it is life altering, but it's not detrimental. Like it's not, you know, there's no hope left or anything like that, but it's an inconvenience and I just work around it and, you know, and just have to schedule things, and that's just the way we do it. And then still, you know, do things with my friends, do things with my dog, you know, do all the work I need to do, you know, that kind of stuff. So
Yep. Excellent. All right. Are there things that you wished you'd known about PD before you started it that you kind of found out when you were in the middle?
I don't think so. I feel like, um, you know, I think because it took a while, as my kidneys were declining, it took a while. I had a lot of doctor's appointments. I feel like I was pretty prepared by the time we started. Um, you know, the things that I wasn't prepared for are all the dietary restrictions and all the things that you have to watch. And, now I need to get more protein instead of cut my protein and, that kind of stuff. And
That is always a tricky one for people,
Yeah.
because you're knowing that your kidneys are kind of slipping, and it's like, oh, gotta limit the protein, don't want to burden the kidneys, and then all of a sudden they pack up and it's like, no, you need tons of protein, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Here's all the healthy foods, but wait, they all have phosphorus.
Right.
it.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not complicated at all, so that's good.
And you have
No.
allergies. I have a lot of allergies.
Yeah,
Medicine, food. And so, just changing my diet a little bit is very, very tricky to me.
right.
And, and so, and my weight is an issue and a problem. And so, my constant thing has been, I don't really have any other health problems. But, the one thing I've always, I guess, looked down on, was a hard thing for me was my weight. And so that's like the constant thing that I always hear now. It's like, oh, if you lose weight, you can get a kidney, blah, blah, blah. And it's just been this
Right.
constant battle of, working out, diet, blah, 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 and just so many things. And so always trying to, I do find, really good options. But, it's a constant, to try to figure out what diet works best. And so it's really interesting.
And works for your kidneys and works for your allergies. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
is.
works for your diet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very
Happy-
interesting with the things you can have. And like for me, for somebody else, certain things, cause more phosphorus because I'm more sensitive. I'm sensitive in every way in life. It's so crazy. So, I can eat one food and not just, you know what I'm saying? So it's really hard. You just got to figure out which one does which. And people probably hate, going out to eat with me, but I can eat anywhere. I can just pick and choose. So
Yeah, I'm a little challenging to feed also, which is why
Dory carries salad dressing with her everywhere she goes.
I know I have to have it with me because I'm allergic to something that's in most of it and I can't have it. And I don't want to go out and not have a salad. So yeah,
Always with salad dressing.
it's always something.
We get it.
But something popped into my head and then it kind of fell out. So I'm going to ask Jen and Kelly to kind of see if they have any, because they've both taken care of both folks who do PD and folks who do home hemo. If you have any sort of favorite stories of things that home therapies allowed folks to do that really made them happy. And whoever talks first gets to jump in first.
Kelly, go first.
Oh,
You go first.
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think because I've been
No
doing
names,
this.
of course. We're not going to violate HIPAA, but
No. Honestly, my favorite story, and I don't know that I can't say that. Well, I do know it eventually he got to be able to do things that made him happy, but I had a patient that was 18 and I got a frantic call from a social worker at the hospital saying, I have this young kid, he's on dialysis, he has a bilateral above the knee amputation, he's got a massive wound, he can't sit up, so we can't send him to a dialysis center. We don't know what to do with him. He can't stay in the ICU forever. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me think on this for a minute. And so I ended up having his mom come to the facility and trained her while he was still in the ICU. Like we just learned the next stage machine for a couple of weeks. And then at that point, we were able to transfer him home and finish up the training at home, like on the catheter. And he was so ill, like in the hospital on, I think, about 10 different antihypertensive medications. He was on daily with high potassiums, essentially basically in hypertensive crisis all the time. Once we got him on the next stage machine, we were able to get down to like just a few antihypertensive medications. He had no kidney function whatsoever. He had a connective tissue disorder and fell off a horse and severed his one kidney that he had, severed the artery. So we get
Kelly,
him.
Jen, and I both have connective tissue disorders. We're never, neither one of us is going to get on a horse at this point.
Yeah, don't get on one. So that's what happened. But so we eventually got him to the point where he was able to get a fistula and get on transplant. He now has a kidney transplant from his mom. And I get to see all the things that he gets to do now. Like he has a special wheelchair that somebody modified for him because he's a good old country boy and is able to go out hunting with his brothers and
that's
just all kinds of great. So I've seen somebody go from like absolutely
really sick,
this person to like completely getting his life back.
That is so great.
I love that. Oh, what a good one. That's good nursing. That's how you be a good home therapy nurse. You're willing to meet the patient wherever the patient's able to be. You go that extra mile and you make the magic happen. Go you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Respect. Yeah. I have a couple of good ones too. I have one where I had a patient on home hemo. I'd been doing home hemo about 7 years. On next stage, great at next stage. Never actually realized that travel was possible for them until I went on vacation and I rented an RV for vacation because I had all of my kids with me, and that includes I have a blended family, so I have a lot of children. So we rented an RV and we went on a vacation. And I was
it an RV or a shoe? Was it a shoe by any chance?
It felt a little bit like a shoe. It was kind of like the Volkswagen with the clown and all the people. It was like that. But I came back and I showed my patient the photos, and he's like, you know, people do this, you know, and I see that Jimmy is in the attendees, but he said that, you know, I was showing him pictures of people who do travel and who do take that initiative. And I said, why don't you just rent the RV, go for a weekend and then see how it goes? And they did. And now they travel, and it's good because that's what people need to be doing. You get one life, and it can throw you lots of, you got to do the things while you can. It'll throw you wrenches, but an asteroid can hit it right now. And I love when people do the things that make them happy.
I think we all share that. We all love seeing people do the stuff that makes them, because that's kind of the point.
I think Barb has Pixel.
She came in here. Let's see if I can.
Okay, we need to see Pixel.
Let's see. Come here, Pixel. Come here.
Oh,
Here she is. She looked up the window. Oh no!
I'm glad we got to see him and not just talk to him. It's a him, right?
Her.
Pixel.
I love her little floofy tail.
I know the floofy tail is excellent. Very
so cute.
A lot of floof. I think it's really important for folks who do PD especially to see that it is possible to have pets safely with PD. A lot of people either believe, or sometimes their clinics tell them, oh no, we can't have pet. People have pets, you know, pets are a huge part of life. You do have to be careful. Are there special precautions that you take with Pixel to be safe with your catheter and the dog?
The only thing I do is when I go to do my exchange, she goes in her crate. So whenever my
That is an
transfer
excellent
set is
plan.
open, she goes
Yep.
in her crate. But no, otherwise she is usually hanging out with me. And she's
Excellent.
decided it's time for me to leave the office.
Yeah.
Go hang out in the living room with her.
I know my cat left also. They come, they go, whatever.
Yeah.
Latrice, you like to travel. Do you want to tell us about some of the places that you've been going?
Oh, yes. So my immediate family, well, some of it, I told you I'm from the South, so they live in Georgia and Alabama. My mom lives in Georgia. And so does my brother. So I go visit them. They have, since we don't have any kids, all of our other siblings have enough. We have 21 nieces and nephews.
Oh, wow.
And so
yes.
I travel to see them.
Oh, fun.
And we go on, because I do home hemo, I do it 4 times a week. So, I could go about 2 days without dialysis. So, we take little mini vacations on the weekend. We go to Memphis, we go wherever we can drive and drive back. And we've been on cruises. We've been on 2 cruises. We go wherever we want to go, fly. This year and last year, I've been able to go by myself. I went by myself for a week. So usually I travel with my husband, but last year, I've been traveling by myself. And sometimes I'll take a flight for like a weekend and come back, and he has everything ready. And so I do handicap when I'm by myself.
Yep.
So that in case I get tired or anything. So I do handicap. It's kind of crazy because you can walk but they like pushing you around in this wheelchair. And I just always got to remember to have change. So if you go, you have to tip them.
Tipping generously is a good practice when you're traveling with any type of home dialysis where you're bringing supplies with you.
Yes. And so usually, I'll put I still put it on the airplane. And I've, got everything tagged. So I still put it on the airplane. Because it's a lot to carry around. No, I would think the PD is easier to travel with than the hemo machine. It's very heavy.
The machine is lighter.
PD machine is lighter.
Bags, honestly, I don't know how it works out in terms of next stage bags versus PD bags for a given trip. But
okay, so
Latrice is gonna do the math. I see her doing the math.
Yeah, right.
So PD, it's a little because when I travel with PD, I can either do the hanging bags or exchangers or do the cycler.
Right.
And so it just depends on how long I was gone. There's a lot more. I would say hemo bags are heavier, right, Torrance? My husband should tell you all of these stories. So I think hemo is heavier, but there is a lot of PD, right? And so I left PD bags in everybody's house because they always send you, red, green, yellow, stuff like that. So it's a lot more, but hemo is heavier. But you use them pretty much, and they also send the cartridges with you. So and so even on the cruises. The only downfall to a cruise is that, there's those little rooms. And so they bring all your boxes to your room.
Which makes the little room even littler.
So we had to do some maneuvering with that, but it was fine. And then usually I do it at night. So I'm free in the day, those kind of things. So, and then always know that, when you go through, you got to go through customs. They always want to check your catheter if it's in your belly, and they want to rub it down. So you've always got to be there early because they're going to stop you.
Good idea.
Even if I don't have the catheter anymore, somehow, I don't know, it still kind of gets flagged a little bit. So I've been flagged ever since I've been on hemo. I'm always flagged. I don't know what's happening. But And then if you take your machine through, they're always going to test everything. They're like, what is this? So, but it's fine. You just have to prepare and just know and just be strategic.
Prepare,
And
bring extra money for tips and allow extra time. That
Yep.
is all very good advice.
Yep.
And have a sense of humor.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And traveling by car, you really need to get out. I think it does wear, I think both wear and tear on your body a little bit. And so I would suggest that, I give myself a couple of days to acclimate back. Yep.
Need that.
All right. So we are almost at the hour. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. Jimmy did say when we were talking about, doing things you love, he said, yes, live life to the fullest. We love making memories. And that is kind of what it's about. So I don't know if we will get any questions. And, let's see. None on Facebook, so that is fine. I know Latrice was doing some cooking that she wants to get to. It sounded really good. She's making Chinese at home. I'm going to be right over because, I had my terrible smoothie for dinner.
Come on over.
I'll be right there. It's just a flight. Let me get to the airport. I've actually never been to Tulsa. I've been to Oklahoma
Oh,
City.
it's a wonderful town.
Yeah, I've only ever been to Oklahoma City. That's the only part of Oklahoma I ever saw, and not much of it.
You should go to Tulsa. Tulsa's better than Oklahoma.
It's much better than Oklahoma City.
I mean, I believe you.
There's
Having been to Oklahoma City, I totally believe you. All right. Well, I would really like to thank you all for taking part and sharing your stories and helping other people, kind of see a little slice of life and what it's like, and how you can still keep doing the things you love even with this, extra time and space taking up part of your life. And I would like to thank our sponsor again, Fresenius, and I'm going to stop the recording, and if we want to chat for another few minutes, we certainly can. But thank you, and have a great rest of your night, and watch for this video to be posted, which it will.